Okay, on today's video, we're going to talk about post-pay services. A few of them out there, and specifically, there are more than a few out there now, but Affirm and Klarna. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Afterpay, if you're familiar with that or have heard of that before. To see how these post-pay apps or services, if you want to call them that, can help you actually make more money, not just more top-line revenue, but more actual profit from your PPC campaigns as they exist today. And so basically with that, these post-pay services, if you're not familiar with what they are yet, essentially all they are is like the equivalent of an online service that acts like a credit card, so that you can buy something from a vendor. It doesn't have to even be an online vendor technically. Anybody basically who sells a product, or technically if you could productize your service, I believe there's a way to also do it with that as well. Don't quote me on that. For all practical purposes for this video, we're talking about products. You sell a product, you want to offer that person in-house financing, you don't have the resources to do it, so they can make payments. You go to a company like this, Affirm or Klarna or Afterpay, they say, we'll take on the risk of having that person pay you back. We will basically pay you up front, right, for what the customer's buying, which is great. You don't have to wait, and the person could pay later. And basically you're paying an interest rate to the third party involved, the Affirm or Klarna or Afterpay, in order to facilitate that transaction for you. So a lot of times it'll be, I only have half the money, I can pay the other half in 3 months, I can pay the other half in 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. And they will craft a plan on the spot for you to be able to buy what you want today through that vendor that already is offering the Affirm, Klarna, or Afterpay, and tells you that you need to pay so much today, and then after 3 months you have to pay so much, and then after 6 months you have to pay a little bit more, and tells you the whole payment plan. And then you basically sign a digital contract saying you'll pay. Once that contract is struck, Afterpay pays the merchant, i.e. you, and they pay back Afterpay or Klarna or Affirm, with the designated schedule that was agreed upon at the time of closing the sale with that customer or client that you're working with. Okay, so there's the in general gist of what these services are like. Now, on this particular video, I'm going to tell you how you're actually going to be able to make the more profit, of course. There's particular strategies that you can use using these Afterpay services or post-pay services, if you want to call it that, as an actual tool, like a builder uses a hammer to be able to make and extract more money from your PPC campaigns. And just as a short detour before I give you the strategies that I've personally used, specifically case studies of where this has actually physically worked and the results, I just wanted to say that if you're struggling with your PPC campaigns today, you're not getting ROI that you're looking for. I've said it many times on my videos that it's not a matter of if PPC works. Of course, there's hundreds of thousands of people out there that advertise using PPC ads, whether it's Facebook or whatever, Google ads. So obviously it works. Not everybody's losing money. But with that said, it's not about if it will work, but when and how much work is it going to be to put in. So basically speaking, if you need an 8-to-1 return on your investment and you're getting a 4-to-1 return, what you need to do, or should do, if you're taking this seriously and you want it to work, is you are going to devise a way to either make that twice as more efficient for you, and it obviously helps to have really good tracking set up, which you can track literally anything. I don't care what you're selling or what you're doing. You can track how much money you're making and how much profit you're making from those PPC ads. If you don't know how, watch my other videos about conversion tracking or leave me a comment on this channel or on this video. But basically speaking, you can either make it more efficient, which there's hundreds of different ways you can actually do that, some a lot more simple, some a little bit more advanced, or you can get more out of that customer, of course, would be the other way to do it. And of course, the third kind of way I put it in its own category is you simply find out what your return is, and then you tell Google or Facebook, I'm willing to, okay, this traffic's now converting at 4-to-1 for me. I need 8-to-1. I'm willing to pay half the money for that same traffic you're driving, and if you'll take that, I'll take your traffic. And so bang, then you have your 8-to-1 return. You're not going to have quite the same volume as you had with that, but they'll, as part of what you can do that Google or Facebook will take less money for. And so that's called, doing bid adjustments in your account. So there's several ways to fix any ROI problem. This ROI, these strategies I'm giving you here fix the ROI problem by making things more efficient. It also makes, my second case study I'm going to give you, makes your ROI problem go away by getting more, mostly anyway, getting more out of your actual customers coming in. So there's a couple different ways this is actually going to help you fix any not getting enough out of your PPC ads so that it's bare minimum profitable after all your expenses are factored in. But anyway, I'll get into what those strategies are, what kind of profit we were making with each of these strategies, give you a detailed overview how those strategies worked. Before I do that, I'll give you a quick run through on a couple more things about the background behind these services and the pros and cons a little bit, and then we'll get right into it. So anyway, first thing to mention what these apps are and how most people are using them are basically short-sighted. Short-sighted in that the typical consumer, and Affirm and Klarna specifically, and Afterpay I'll say as well, they should be marketing the way that I'm telling you here to who they want to use the service as a way to make more money and make money. You can literally create something out of nothing here. Of course, basically but really let's just say dumbed down. They're saying if you offer this, some people who don't have the money can pay later. Sure, okay, there's no disputing that, but there's a way to be able to switch up your actual offer and what you're selling and reframe it to get a lot more sales, a lot more than what you can get just plastering it on your site. Affirm, pay later, that's it. Like that's what 95+% of people are going to do. But people who think outside the box, like I'm going to do with our client. So if I'm not profitable enough on something with the client, I'm going to look at the whole funnel. I'm going to look at the PPC ads, the keywords, or the audience we're targeting, the landing page, what's happening after this lead is generated, or if an inquiry is generated, what's happening there, and we'll figure out what part of the funnel is the most easiest to make more efficient. What's the low-hanging fruit? Where's the biggest bottleneck? And these post-pay services can uncork the bottleneck, if you will, very, very easily just by simply, taking the funnel and making that funnel fundamentally a little bit, let's just say, smoother. And I'll explain how this works in a minute. Not just putting it on your site and, that's it. It gives you a fundamental new tool to be able to switch up how your funnel works is the whole grand kind of scheme or what I'm going to convey to you here on this particular PPC money-making strategy in a minute. But with that, traditionally, these services are sold as an online credit card, basically, as I mentioned. That's more convenient than using a credit card in that, why I always wondered when I was a kid, why does the, like Kohl's offer in-house financing? People got credit cards. There's of course you can get extra credit, but there's a little bit of a convenience factor because they're pushing it on you right when you're checking out, and I understand that. And so these services are kind of tapping into that. But with these post-pay services, the APR can potentially be lower. And obviously with credit cards, sometimes you can get a 0% with certain introductory rates, but they legitimately at this Affirm and Klarna, at least these two specifically, a 0% interest rate. So you can, unlike the credit card they have, you could say you can pay this over 4 months instead of now all in one shot and legitimately pay 0 interest. So That's the other selling point that these companies try to give the merchants that are selling on, to convince them to offer this on their site. And more people are offering it all the time. And beyond that, there's service Afterpay itself, which they are actually catering to, let's just say, the lower end of the market. You can't charge as much with them, but they don't do credit checks. So this Affirm and Klarna is based upon your credit. Afterpay is not. They're using AI and data analytics to determine whether or not somebody's likely to pay. And it's more predicated on giving somebody a small bit of credit. If they pay it off, then they'll give you credit again. And they're hoping over the lifetime value of that person that they're taking a risk on initially will pay off through all the interest payments over all the purchases they make using the Afterpay service over time, given that the Afterpay will be offered on many, many different websites. So that's the main thing, the Afterpay as a third kind of service I'm talking about on this particular video, or the main way people are thinking about it, if you will. So beyond that though, getting into the meat of this, these apps can be used to get either a higher order rate, higher order / cart total, total, how much they're basically spending, whether that's through the cart itself. You can actually sell offline, believe it or not. A lot of people this is another thing that people don't think about. And the way that that's done is they send you a text on your phone, and then you just go through your phone, and then you can bang. You can check out and you get your credit right then and there. It only takes basically a couple minutes. But it will increase the amount that they're spending because you're offering credit and doing it. And if you do it in the right way, you can really enhance how much you're getting, which I'm going to go over in the second case study here. But so you either have that, or you're going to be able to have higher sales conversion rates itself to begin with. In other words, you're going to be able to, with these services and doing it the way that I'm describing to you, actually get more physically people to buy. And obviously, the way that it's normally marketed, as I said, that's kind of what it is. Some people who don't have money, they can use the service to check out. And if they were going to wait to get paid, you got them right then and there because you're giving them the way to pay later. But as you're going to see in a minute here, on my first case study, that you can actually take that quite a bit further, in that you could start to reel people in based upon the fact that they can pay later to really get the sales going for your company and get a much higher conversion rate that you're going to get than just offering the product. And then, oh yeah, we have post-pay, which is the lazy passive approach. So anyway, getting into it, I have two case studies here that I'm going to go over on how we actually used Affirm and Klarna in a real life scenario to be able to increase the profit that the PPC investment was making the client. Work with hundreds of different clients over the last 15 years. So in two different situations, these are fairly new services, obviously, but there's two of these where it was already being offered, or we started offering it, and through the process of consulting with them, we optimized their sales funnel of how everything, a customer comes in and is sold with these services to do things we couldn't do before. So anyway, the first one, case study one, is for air filter. So they were selling an air filter product, and instead of the everyday normal where people are looking for an actual air filter online, we said try free for 30 days. Okay? So with these services, specifically Klarna, you actually literally can offer, that person pays $0 right now and pay for it in 30 days. And so what you can actually say in that scenario then, what that gives you the possibility to do, is say 30-day guarantee, pay nothing now. If it does not work for you, send it back and still pay nothing. Now, in a situation like where you're selling an air filter where there's a lot of competition, there's, let's say, a low barrier to trust, because obviously it's debatable whether or not one air filter works better than the other. This is one fantastic way to stand out, and it was. Because when we worked that into the ad copy and the landing page copy, which, by the way, anything that you offer in the ad is your main differentiator, you're always seeking to have a clear differentiator from the rest of the ads, at least one there. In this case, try free for 30 days. no money up front in the ad. The landing page should reverberate it right away in the, what do they call it, above the fold or before you scroll down the page right away, so they know you're not screwing around with them. Anyway, by using that language or close to that language on the ad, we got a 112% increase in click-through rate. If you know anything about quality score on Google, and this was on Google, you increase your click-through rate by that amount, you're going to pay way less per click, like basically almost half. For the same clicks as before, same quality traffic, now it's half the rate. Plus, if that traffic was profitable, now you figured out 112%, how to get 112% more of it. So you're making a ton more money when you look at just with that kind of a increase in your click-through rate all by itself. With that, everything panned out to where between the reduction in the cost per click and the fact that more people converted once they clicked on the ad and it was reverberated to them on the landing page, we got a 149% increase in the ROI on the campaign just with that one change. And that was just we layered that on top of keywords that where people are like buy air filter, that kind of stuff, just generic stuff. This worked very well. Later on, just as a side note, one of the things I immediately suggested as well is I said, and this is a little bit gray area, but why don't you advertise for keywords? So I first of all asked a bunch of questions about what this product, what's the end consumer, because this is what I do with my clients. I bounce ideas back and forth with them, and I asked, what are many people buying this, and what are they buying it for? Like the different buyer personas. One of which is people with allergies, they have kids with allergies. They have the air filter for that, for their house. And so, okay, why don't you attempt to let me help you advertise for keywords related to the asthma? Asthma air filter is one, but also how do I help my kids' asthma? Going one step further out, branching out a little bit further, and then having an ad that says, asthma air filter, try free for 30 days. If it doesn't work, pay nothing. That actually worked extremely well in and itself. And so obviously that's not possible if we didn't have our Klarna to where we could do that. So, and then of course in the same scenario as I mentioned before, if you're going to do that, the landing page, since the main selling point in the ad that differentiates us is the free trial in the ad, right away just bang says that before you scroll anywhere on the landing page. And of course you have to do a whole bunch more on the landing page about selling the filter, how what it filters, what it does, and all the features. But right up top, you always want to reverberate the ad copy, because that ad actually reinforces that you're in the right place, and yes, that ad was for real. That's just a general rule of thumb for you in general to know when you do the Google ads or Bing ads. Same thing with Facebook ads as well, that you can do as well. Just an interesting side note. And so what you could do is you can actually take an offer like this, free trial, and rework it in several different ways to your advantage. So anyway, that's the whole first scenario where you could actually take these services and offload your risk that you normally wouldn't take on your own to these companies, which you're not ripping them off. I laugh about it, but like legitimately, it's something that you're able to do something that you're able to use their infrastructure and their data analytics and their actuaries to figure out a way to be able to offer something like that without getting frauded to death. Ultimately, what it comes down to. You used to see all the time, by the way, on TV, like those 30-second TV slots. They'd say try free for 30 days. Those were very, very effective. But you don't see that online anymore. And you always had to have pay up front. You could get a refund, so that wasn't the same thing as I mentioned here. But the fact that almost every commercial had that should get you thinking a little bit like, I bet that works. And then, it works, and it works, 2 to 5 times better if you actually don't have them pay up front. Who are you going to go with? If you're not an air filter expert, you only have so much. You're just going to go with the person who does the risk reversal, because that's going to be the one that reduces the risk as much as possible for you. If they're willing to let me literally rip them off, obviously it has to be a good product or it wouldn't work. So the same philosophy we use at Guaranteed PPC. We don't ask our clients to pay anything up front. And that's the same philosophy there. And of course, it's risky, but at the same time, the increase in response is so much greater, it's worth it to do. Or we wouldn't obviously be doing it. So anyway, case study 2, moving on here, was a seller of luxury wrought iron doors. So you can Google this. It's a weird kind of niche, but they make custom doors for like expensive houses, mansions, but not also just regular like little McMansions too, where it had, looks like black rustic iron and it's bent and customized. So like, that's on the initial door before you get into the main door, like the glass door, if you will. Because a lot of people have big doors, and for security reasons, they don't want the big door. They want it open, and they still have that glass door. Well, you can have metal on top of it, but not ghetto-like, if you will. so that it looks fancy still and looks like decorative, and still also has security features with it. You can Google that anyway. But they're really expensive. So, but there's, we're in today's society where rich are getting richer, and there's 20% with all the money and 80% that are basically broke. And so if you could come up with a luxury product that can tap into that 20%, it seems like they have unlimited money to spend if you can have something that really stands out like that. And they did have a beautiful product. But anyway, back to the case study. So going back to what I told you before, don't just work on things in a vacuum. Look at your whole sales funnel. How can we can improve individual parts, but how can we improve the whole funnel as a secondary avenue to be able to get our ROI up to where we need it to be, or get more out of our ads, given there's only so much demand for this wrought iron, customers locally or whatever, which local businesses are always usually trying to expand as much as possible from that small pocket of people who are already interested. How can we actually maybe even change the whole funnel itself so that the demand that's already out there, we're able to get, basically 2 or 3 times more, because we made it overall more efficient. And that's what we did here. So the doors are very, very expensive. Many thousands of dollars in a lot of cases. So what we did was, despite how much money people have, people still like to get a deal. This is, the case, no matter how rich they are. For the most, there are exceptions, obviously, but so we used an entry pricing scheme that was going to look cheap to a lot of people and make them think, wow, like they have a great deal on these doors versus these other vendors, and use that as a initial way to grab their attention, and then from there we upsold them. So to be more specific, the ad that we had was, and this isn't the exact language, but it's close, entry point on all doors starting at only $9.99. I know $9.99 sounds expensive, but these doors go up to $20,000, respectively speaking, depending on how fancy it is. So, consulting with them again, I crafted this funnel that was going to be able to suck out more of the available local demand by having the ad, instead of saying like wrought iron door maker, custom wrought iron door maker, custom wrought iron door maker, entry point on all doors starting at $9.99. And if you haven't seen my other videos, any ad where you put pricing in there, that in itself will generally double your click-through rate. So if you can do it, experiment with it. But with that, we had the landing page also say that same thing, of course. Entry point on our doors starts at $9.99. And then we also said on that landing page, come see our showroom. Now, if you have any possible way to have a showroom, if you're going to offer any kind of, let's say you're a pool maker or roofing or carpet. I mean, for carpet you would normally have it. I shouldn't say that, but you're going to sell more because there's a whole lot of trust that's conveyed in the process of meeting with that person in such a format, and you can create a selling environment that will do a hard close on the person, even though you're not going to, I hate to use hard close, but like you can get them to say yes in a controlled environment, which will get you a higher yes rate in that type of situation that they drove there, and once you've got them there, and so on and so forth. But we said, come see our showroom on the landing page, right? So they knew that that was there, and so they know it's cheap. They know they can go see examples of this wrought iron, which is really cool to them, right? So therefore, we got a high conversion rate that, you know, almost double the conversion rate on top of that. So we, you know, got the click-through rate up, got the conversion rate up, and once we got the person to the showroom, that's where the magic really started. The showroom tour, and if you guys have a showroom out here already, or anybody who does, if you have a showroom, what you want to do is you want to start with showing the person the most expensive stuff first. If you do it the other way around, you show them the cheapest stuff first, you won't sell near as much, almost like half as much. Because people's, when their expectations are high, the other cheaper stuff doesn't, it's like repulsive to them, basically, just to keep it simple in explaining it. And so, okay, we got them in the initial door, if you will, proverbial door, knowing that the doors that we offer will be affordable, given that's a high thing that people respond to. But when they get to the store, what they want to, which will really get their attention initially, is a beautiful door, even if it is expensive. So what you do is you say, I know you may not be able to afford our top doors, but I just want to show you our top of the line products, and, you know, and so you can see what, you know, ultimately what we're dealing with, and then I'll walk you down to the cheapest doors. And so you do that, and then, so basically people obviously in their mind have a budget when they walk in there, whether I don't want to spend more than $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever on this door, but they've now got their appetite whet looking at all these doors. And so at the end of the process, using the Affirm, which will allow you to actually have up to $17,000 worth of credit for that person, they got to the end of the process and said, I know you have a, you know, and actually you ask for people's budget if you can up front, if they'll give it to you. A lot of people will guard that, but you can say at the end of the process, and you want to structure your sales process so it's the same every time. That's how you get really good results from your PPC campaigns. But you get to the end of the process and you say, I know your budget is $3K, but I know you really like this door that was $6K. And, you know, I just want to let you know that we have credit where you can pay for this other $3K that you may not have in your budget over 36 months. And we offer, you know, a third of our customers are able to be eligible for 0% financing on top of that, which they really do. That's the real stats from the Affirm. So in that situation, roughly 20% of the people then got the more expensive door because and took the credit offer. Or they just got the more expensive door, one or the other. So half of that I want to contribute to the fact that they're, you know, if they didn't have the money and they wanted the other door, they just were able to get it. Obviously they have to have good credit, but somebody looking for that generally always has good credit, so that worked out. In that person though that would normally have only bought a $3,000 door, bought a $6,000 to $10,000 door. And so that actually increased the ROI, the LTV of an average sale by close to 50%. So they were selling 50% more, or getting 50% more revenue on the same exact traffic they had. So that makes up the third way that this actual campaign generated more profit for the client. You had a 79% increase in click-through rate on the ad by having pricing in there, which dropped the cost per click a good, I don't know exactly, you know, in that range, it's going to be probably 30-40%. And then your conversion rate's almost double by having such an enticing offer there with the pricing that matches the ad, and given pricing is a big thing that gets people's attention, and then, so that they know that you have really good value to offer. You show a picture of a beautiful door and then a cheap price, so they assume value. They convert at a much higher rate, and then you have on top of that another 50% more revenue generated on the ones that do come to the showroom. On top of that, again, your third way of making more money, which translates into more profit, by people more often and willing to spend more. And they actually didn't know the trick of starting with the most expensive, then walking down and structuring your sales process like that. I got that from the billiard gaming industry. There was a case study I saw in where you buy pool tables or billiard tables. That's how it's done if you want the most revenue there. Applied to this very, very flawlessly, let's just put it that way. And so they switched it up a little bit, and then at the end they always, like I said, asked if they would, I know you had this budget, but you like this door. Let us hook you up with this. You can pay later on. And then the in-person sales credit offer, as if you didn't catch on it before, basically what you do again, I mentioned before that in an in-person selling scenario, you can actually text them the application process. You can't fill out the form for them for the credit, but you just ask for their phone number, you text it to them. Within a couple minutes they can apply. Once they're approved, you're done. You don't have to do anything else. Affirm pays, again, you. So they want the wife wants, let's just say, the $8,000 door, even though wife and husband is there. The husband kind of agreed to a $3,000 when they started, but then she kind of guilt strips it into getting the $8K, and given that it only takes a couple minutes to be able to get the $8K door, and now they can afford it, and it's easy and streamlined because these services did a great job at making this streamlined. Not have to fill out a huge credit application and then have to wait and call it in and all that crap that takes 20 minutes. They really helped themselves out. So 280% increase in campaign ROI once you added up the CTR increase, which would directly translate into a lower cost per click, and then an increase in conversion rate on the landing page to get people to either come to the showroom without calling, which was an option, or calling and then coming in, or filling out the contact form, one of those three things, which we had clicked for the driving directions, which was a fourth way we were tracking, but we identified how many people are responding on that level, and then more revenue per transaction through the increased or optimized sales process altogether gets us to the 280% ROI. So basically with that last one, you're able to change how you're selling it a little bit with knowing that you're going to really, really try to whet their appetite or offer them more features, more benefits. Okay, you want this model, but can I interest you in this? Oh no, how about this? We have this upgraded feature. We have this. We can give you this. We can give you, extra, 30-day supply. And if you call in, going back to those 30-second on TV commercials that you still see to this day, selling kind of gimmicky products. If you call into those phone numbers, the way that they make the economics behind those work when it's just a $20 product is they offer you one thing. Once you've already gave them their credit card number, and you may say no, and then they offer you another thing. And they have a whole string of upsells, and they're hoping to get you on at least one to make the whole cost of the media or advertising to work and pay out. Sometimes you may be calling about a broom, and they're going to be offering you vitamins at the end of the upsell sequence. And so this is a similar situation in that you're going to have all the upgrades you can think of, and cross-sells that you can think of, and then and given that they're not prepared to spend all that money, you always have in your back pocket still a way for them to pay for it with zero interest and not having to pay it now. And you're always going to go for it, and not always they're going to go for it, but 20% of the time, 10% of the time, you'll get it because that's now a part of your selling process. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense, how to use these services to your advantage to increase profitability on your PPC campaigns. Hope you liked it. With that said, I have a ton of other videos on how to make more money using PPC. You're doing PPC now, you want to make more money from it, want to know strategies that I use for our personal client accounts to guarantee the results. Check those out. I also have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog that has more step-by-step instructions on how I build our campaigns for our clients to guarantee the results. Beyond that, if you have any questions, concerns, comments about what I shared with you today, anything that you think that I should have covered and didn't, leave a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel. Apart from that, I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with offering the post-pay credit to your business and switching up, maybe potentially fundamentally changing your entire business and your PPC strategy with it.